Continuing on with the TMCC Library Open Genealogy Lab Outstanding Guest Speaker Series, today we are pleased to present Louis L. Nielsen, also known as Ted. Ted accepted the office of Chancellor of the National Society of Magna Carta and Somerset chapter of Magna Carta Barons, now the National Society of Magna Carta Dames and Barons, on September 1st, 1989, upon the retirement of John S. Wirtz Jr. He graduated from the Hotchkiss School, received a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration from Babson College, received a JD from Delaware Law School of Wilderner, I hope I pronounced that right, University, and received an LLM in taxation from Temple University. He is a member of the Pennsylvania Bar. He is a lieutenant colonel serving over 24 years in the Pennsylvania National Guard, and having initially served as an officer in the 1st Troop Philadelphia City Cavalry, of which he is now a member of the honorary roll. Ted has undertaken much of his own research to identify his ancestors and to join a number of hereditary societies, many of which he has served as an officer. He is a past governor of the Society of Colonial Wars in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and life member of the General Council of the General Society of Colonial Wars. He is a past Commander General of the MOFW. He is the past governor of the Colonial Society of Pennsylvania and past commander of the Pennsylvania Commandery MOFW. He is also past treasurer of the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania. He has served as a manager or trustee of the Pennsylvania Society of Sons of the American Revolution and the Wellcome Society of Pennsylvania. He's a member of the National Society of Magna Carta Dames and Barons, the Plantagenet Society, the Society of Descendants of Knights of the Most Noble Order of the Garter, and the Sovereign Colonial Society, Americans of Royal Descent, the Order of Washington, the Colonial Order of the Crown, the Society of the Cincinnati, the Colonial Society of Pennsylvania, the Society of Colonial Wars, the Military Order of the Royal Legion, of the Loyal Legion, and the Pennsylvania Society Sons of the Revolution, the Society of the Sons of St. George, the St. Andrews Society, the Military Order of Foreign Wars, the Military Order of World Wars, the Wellcome Society of Pennsylvania, and the Colonial Order of the Acorn. He is also a member of the Pilgrims of the United States. So my goodness, I am so impressed with this list. It's amazing. So I'd like to offer a warm virtual welcome to Ted.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Students and guests of the Truckee Meadows Community College, Elizabeth Sturm Library, and Suzanne Malik. I am honored to address your class today concerning the Magna Carta and the National Society Magna Carta Dames and Barons. As the Chancellor of the Society, I'm delighted to share the Magna Carta story. I am Chancellor of the National Society Magna Carta Dames and Barons, which is a lineage-based society instituted in 1909 with the requirements that descent is established from one or more ancestors present at the Field of Runnymede in support of the Magna Carta. I became Chancellor in 1989. There is no specific list of the members of the Baronial Army, and we have an ongoing project to identify them. However, 25, actually 17 of the sureties are the ancestors of many descendant immigrants to America during the years before the American Revolution. We are familiar with the ancestry of over 1,000 immigrants, mostly during the period leading up to the American Revolution. We have over 17,000 current members and have about 5,000 lost members, some of whom may be deceased. Lineage-based organizations provide incentive to learn about your ancestry, which makes history more personal. The members of our society meet in divisions, chapters, and colonies with presentations concerning Magna Carta. We encourage friendship and fellowship and focus on Magna Carta. We have maintained modest enrollment fees to encourage awareness of Magna Carta, and the hand-painted membership certificates are generally framed in member homes and provide a multi-generation reminder of Magna Carta. We welcome participation by partners who share our interest in Magna Carta without the need to establish an ancestral connection with the Barons. We are currently planning a tour in June 2025 to recognize the 800th anniversary of the 1225 Magna Carta, which I submit is the most important. Our last tour was in 2015, centered on June 15th, 2015, the 800th anniversary of the sealing of Magna Carta on June 15th, 2015. In 2015, members of our society, the National Society Magna Carta Dames and Barons, had expressed interest in sharing the experience, and 107 American members and guests traveled to Runnymede on June 15th, 2015. June 15th, 2015 was an exceptional day. From the court calendar for June 15th, 2015, the Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, accompanied by the Princess Royal and Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, this morning visited Runnymede on the occasion of the 800th anniversary of the sealing of Magna Carta, and were received at Runnymede Meadows by Her Majesty's Lord Lieutenant of Surrey, Dame Sarah Gode, the Duke of Cambridge, the Archbishop of Canterbury, the Lord Dyson, who was Master of the Rolls, the Right Honorable David Cameron, MP, Prime Minister, and Right Honorable Philip Hammond, MP, Secretary of State for Foreign and Commonwealth Affairs and Member of Parliament for Runnymede, and the Mayor of Runnymede. The Queen and the Duke of Edinburgh, accompanied by the Duke of Cambridge and the Princess Royal and Vice Admiral Sir Tim Lawrence, listened to a choral performance and speeches delivered by the Master of the Rolls, the Prime Minister, and the Archbishop of Canterbury, and met representatives from organizations associated with the event. I was honored to represent our society and to be presented to Her Majesty. The accomplishments of the British for the 800th anniversary year have been inspiring and frankly awesome. I have a Google search set for Magna Carta, and there are daily programs and exhibits. The British government gave the Magna Carta Trust £1 million for the programming and £1 million to a group of eminent scholars for research, and those scholars have been writing books about their conclusions. The Magna Carta is current today. Now we need to defend its application. As recently as 2008, our United States Supreme Court applied the Magna Carta to uphold habeas corpus petitions for Guantanamo detainees at Bundamine versus Bush. In that case, a commentator observed that under Justice Kennedy's opinion, that the review is less about prisoners' rights than the judicial power to check undue use of executive power. Is that opinion being eroded today? I also read in the internet version of The Economist dated June 27, 2015, that 8 justices voted to reverse that ruling. Chief Justice John Roberts pointed especially to Clause 28 of Magna Carta extracted from King John in 1215, which specifically protected agricultural crops from uncompensated takings. The colonists, quote, brought the principles of Magna Carta with them to the New World, he wrote, and had them in mind when they drafted the Fifth Amendment. At our Society's 2013 Washington, D.C. dinner, Ambassador Phillips made the distinction between the North and South American as Magna Carta cultures based on Magna Carta values or not. There is a fundamental expectation grounded in Magna Carta that individuals are entitled to basic human rights. Many countries do not share that and accept to varying degrees that within their cultures, the leaders have the power and are not really restrained by laws. I believe it is safe to say that we have a responsibility and mission to share our beliefs while respecting the rights of those who might disagree. We have a global audience and hopefully will provide content which will resonate and embolden individuals to reassert their rights. I would submit that the Magna Carta is an important foundation for all forms of free expression, whether in sharing points of view or arts. A significant result from the Magna Carta of 1215 was the acknowledgement that kings are answerable to the law made by men rather than only to God. Whether that is actually accepted by leaders and especially tyrants of our modern world is open to question. But today's technology provides methods of communication which are in the process of reaching all peoples and the lessons of Magna Carta. June 15th, 2015 was a special time for the Magna Carta as we experienced June 15th of that year. The 800th anniversary of the date the document was sealed by King John. By agreeing to Magna Carta, he acknowledged that the king is subject to the law by allowing a precedent to be established under common law. He emboldened the rights of Englishmen, which enabled and emboldened the American colonists to declare our independence. Since 1993, when I purchased a video camera, I've recorded almost every presentation I have attended, and I invite you to view the hundreds of hours of video and to view the thousands of pages of text, which is on our website. Most recently, a group of scholars in the United Kingdom have been given a grant of £1 million to study the Magna Carta with the opportunity to individually present and publish their findings. In addition to organizations and towns in the United Kingdom have been awarded grants of up to £20,000 as an incentive to recognize Magna Carta. The Lincoln Castle received funding in the amount of £22 million. Salisbury Cathedral renovated its exhibit of the Magna Carta with funding in the amount of £5,000. The development of the Interpretive Center at Lincoln will provide an educational destination for every school child in the United Kingdom. Most of the funding for these projects has been public, and I have been especially impressed by the Lincolnshire County Council, who have provided the financial resources to provide education. They have taken the same approach with the University of Lincoln. They have a thriving community as a result. Salisbury was especially creative when they displayed the cover of Jay-Z's album For a Time Next to the Magna Carta. His 2013 album, incorporating the name Magna Carta, developed an awareness in a wider constituency. I was told by Salisbury that he was good to them. Our 800th anniversary committee had a wide audience that year, and I'm particularly interested in providing a legacy so the anniversary is remembered in the future. Our tours provide some exceptional video, which will be presented on our website. These include the June 15th, 2015 at Runnymede and Magna Carta festivals at Runnymede and Egham. To view the Magna Carta exhibits in London and Faversham, as well as visiting Canterbury. Sir Robert Worcester, chairman of the 800th Anniversary Committee, opened his home, Allington Castle, for high tea. We visited the Lincoln Castle Interpretive Center and Lincoln Cathedral Library. Our society had a group of 200 who were present at Runnymede for the 750th anniversary. This time, our group had a luncheon in Bury St. Edmunds in the same place where the group had lunch in 1965. There was an exceptional exhibit at the Houston Museum of Science in 2014, and about 100 of our members gathered to attend the opening event. Clearly, the Magna Carta was inspirational for the American colonists, as it is today. It provided precedent within the common law for the rights of Englishmen to be oversimplistic. Many of the American colonists involved in leadership in the American Revolution were educated in London. In a recent publication entitled Middle Temple Lawyers in the American Revolution, Lord Phillips, in the introduction, observed that families of means who had settled in the colonies often sent their sons to study in England, with about 150 studying at the Middle Temple in the 18th century. He observed that by the time of the American Revolution, over 100 American-born lawyers were Middle Templars, including 5 signers of the Declaration of Independence and 7 drafters of the Constitution. The book explores their experience. The book and many other studies illustrate that the early Americans who gathered together to plan a nation did so with a free discussion, although private, among educated people. We can explore that process, but it is hard to replicate the unique dynamic which is experienced when people gather in person. Today, we enjoy electronic media and impersonal communication. However, it is likely that many decisions are made by personal exchanges. The advantage enjoyed by the colonists was that their presence for the meetings was based on geographical interests rather than political orientation, so they started with a clean slate. We could consider what the colonists were studying and also consider the extraordinary resources in Philadelphia could provide an exhibit, including the actual book and publications, which were used by those colonists during the decision-making process. There have been many books written about the formative experience, and many scholars are embracing the 800th anniversary as an opportunity to explore the history and many ramifications from Magna Carta. The challenge today is to continue to provide forums with meetings and conferences, as well as opportunities for publications so that new ideas and creativity emerge based on the principles of Magna Carta. We should emphasize the importance of inspiration as we strive for individual liberty and the rule of law as components of democracy. One of my objectives is to color code a map of the world with reference to the Magna Carta rights within the 194 constituent countries which are part of the International Bar Association. As I said before, the Magna Carta provided precedent for the American Revolution. The well-educated men who were founding fathers, along with the participants who were motivated by passion or self-interest more than reason, combined to incorporate historical perspective within the American Revolution. We can start with 1215. Actually, we could start with the Articles of King Henry I, explore the contrary experience of the Golden Bull in Hungary in 1222, study the theories of Sir Edward Coke, and trace the evolving relationships between kings and subjects through the English Revolution and the Glorious Revolution. Each step in the process would have been studied by earlier founders or shared among the founders. An exceptional book titled The Origins of Political Order by Francis Fukuyama, a senior fellow at Stanford University, explores the experiences of many cultures. Among the lessons is that the Hungarian Golden Bull of 1222, which he observed some described as an East European Magna Carta, did not become the foundation of Hungarian liberty. He observed that the early constitution limited the power of the Hungarian kings so well that effective rule was placed in the hands of an undisciplined aristocracy. Without a strong central executive and the power to support an army, the country lost its freedom altogether to the Ottomans at the Battle of Mohács in 1526. This is one example as he explores the lessons from China and India, as well as the events leading to the French Revolution. There is much to study, and we can learn, as did the American colonists. As Americans, we have a responsibility to continue the vision of our ancestors for the nation. For those who are descended from the Magna Carta barons, we have a responsibility to continue to inspire all peoples to embrace the courage of the barons, not only to challenge authority, but also to do so in a way which is responsible. The barons did not seek to kill the king and destabilize the realm. They chose to influence the king. Today, we can influence the world, and the 800th anniversary provides an opportunity both for the 1215 and the 1225 Magna Carta. In conclusion, in the interest of time, I will stop and welcome questions. If you wish to explore some of the incredible content within Philadelphia, which can be shared in the exhibit, we can provide information about the vibrant activities in the United Kingdom. We can explore some of the content within Magna Carta. I encourage you to look at our website, sign into our restricted website, and learn more information. I will mention that the restricted site, the reason for doing that is to make a distinction between member sign-in and also interested sign-in, people who are not members of our society. We put a number of talks and presentations on that website. We have a number of links to various ancestors on that website. And in the future, the opportunity would be to present some of the recordings from the presentation, which have been given to our society over the years since 1993, when I started recording. And the members section of that website is intended to include basically membership meetings, which would be shared for members, and where members can observe in some instances, their parents or grandparents. So it's an exciting time. It's an exciting venture, and I'm honored for the privilege of addressing you today. Thank you.
Ted, before we open up the floor to questions from the class, can you tell us what is the address of your website?
It's www.magnacharta, that's MAGNACHARTA.org, O-R-G. We are a organization.
Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring that up and I'm going to share it with the class. Hold on one second. Let me just go to
www.magnacharta.org.
Okay, hold on. And let me share my screen with the class, and you'll be able to see it as well. Because I wanted to give your organization, a good promo here. So is this the correct website?
Yes.
Okay, maybe you could tell us a little something about the website. Once again, Magna Charta, CHARTA, pronounced Carta.org.
Well, you're looking at the website. That's a picture that was taken at Hereford Cathedral. That is a picture taken outside of Lincoln Cathedral, which was our tour in 2015. That was John Bercow, who was the Speaker of the House of Commons, and then Sir Robert Worcester, who was the chairman of the committee. And then these are the slides that are on the website. So that's those are a few of many many options. If you look at the one where it says here about us, it says here 3 pictures from the 800th anniversary. If you click on, can you click on that, or yeah.
And while we're waiting for that to come up, I see my internet's a little slow today. But because we do have some people here in the class that are beginners, could you kind of explain what a Magna Carta surety is?
The which?
The sureties?
Which
You had mentioned the sureties?
Within the 1215 Magna Carta, there was a provision for enforcement, and that provision basically said that the where is that rest of it? That basically there were identified 25 sureties, and if King John didn't abide by the provisions of the Magna Carta, then he would forfeit the realm to the care of the 25. That was a provision which was apparently not well liked by the crown, and and one of the provisions that led to the 1215 version being basically annulled by the Pope. The 1225 version of Magna Charta did not include those provisions. But what it did do was it had identified by name some of the people who were on the side of the Magna Carta in the conflict.
Okay, great. Thank you for taking that a little step further for the beginners. Now I see here on the screen, I hope you're all seeing looks like a slide presentation from a meadow called Runnymede.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that. I'm not sure that's one of the. If you go down further.
Okay. Let me know when to stop.
These are, yeah, that's stop. You can stop there. These are very pictures of the celebration at Runnymede Meadow, which was the day before the 1215, and that is that was an event which was hosted by a group called Runnymede Legacy, which is a group which continues, and we are looking forward to coordinating with Runnymede Legacy in our trip next year. What Runnymede Legacy did, if you go down a little bit further.
Let me know when to stop.
That's the dinner. I don't know whether if you go, that was the 15th itself, but there might be a picture of there's the Queen right there, and these were pictures taken on June 15th. But there might be a picture of the statue which was put up of Queen Elizabeth on the Runnymede pleasure grounds, and the pleasure grounds are owned by. Now that's another. We had a tea next door. That was a monument. That was the original Magna Charta monument, which happens to be owned by a lady named Tessa Kennedy. And she purchased a 30-acre estate right next door to the Runnymede Field. So, and she's a friend of ours. And so that on June 15th, we went from a gathering space on one side of the Runnymede Field, which had maybe 5,000 or 6,000 people. We went next door to a field that was much like the size of a football field, and it was just us. So that was fun. And then we looked at the monument itself, and the monument was erected years before by a former owner of her estate.
Okay, let me continue down a little bit further. Let me know when to stop.
Yeah, just keep going slowly. Okay. These are pictures.
Could you explain the shields?
Well, shields were, they go back to the medieval time, I guess, when they were used as identifiers for various nobles, and would identify the the people who were the combatants in certain kinds of conflicts. But today they're more recognized as identifiers for individuals, and expressing their own coats of arms. And you can if you get the appropriate introductions, you can apply for your own coat of arms today.
That might be something our class might be interested in. Let's see here. Just let me know when to stop.
And that's Sir Robert Worcester, who was our inspiration. He was a American originally who was born in or lived in Kansas, went to the University of Kansas, joined McKinsey and Company, which is a consulting firm, and then eventually left McKinsey to purchase a client called Morai, which was the most respected polling company in the UK. And he was one of the foremost pollsters, and highly respected and dedicated to the Magna Carta. I mean, when he made the first visit to England, I guess as a young soldier, the first place he went was the British Museum to see the Magna Carta. Now the Magna Carta collections are at the British Library. And for a number of years, he carried a tea bag in his pocket as indicated as a American expatriate at a time before American expats were given the opportunity to vote. And he is a great man, and really applied all of his experience and knowledge to generating the Magna Carta 800th anniversary.
Okay, I'll go ahead and continue. Let me know if there's a place you want me to stop. Oh, looks like that. There you go. Okay, let me stop sharing here, but let me go back to the website because I know there's probably going to be questions from the class about joining, and let me just stop there and go back to your website here and start sharing my screen once more. Okay, so if one wanted to join, where would one go on your website?
Okay, what the idea is that the easiest way to do it is to send me an email, which is chancellor@magnacharta.org, and express interest. There are two paths, basically. Traditionally, people were proposed by other members, and that is how most people join. But there is a situation, I mean, we only have active, say, 17,000 members. So we recognize that there are other people who share our interest in constitutional liberty, who would be interested in joining our society. And so the way we work it is that they send an application along with a CV or resume, which we review, and then we can recognize their application, and if they qualify ancestrally, then they can be invited to enroll as a member. We try to keep the cost of enrollment as low as we can. A life membership is $200. If you receive a small insignia, it's $235. If you're interested in a larger insignia, that includes a hand-painted certificate of membership, which is very popular, and most people frame. It includes the insignia, either large or small. It includes a small scroll pen and the right to appoint a qualified successor who will also be a member of the society without additional cost. Now, the successor receives an announcement of membership, but would need to purchase a certificate and insignia if they wish to do so. So the theory is that we encourage, it's part of our mission, to encourage people to remember the Magna Carta and what it means. And by expanding the membership, we feel that is a part of our mission. So we encourage people to participate and express interest. As I said in the talk, we're familiar with over 1,000 immigrant ancestors. If you somebody would fill out the application form and establish their descent from one of those 1,000 ancestors, and that's would be what they would need to do. If there's an ancestor who does not have, we're not familiar with, then it would be necessary to complete part 2 of the application form, which would be an opportunity to establish descent of a new ancestor. When somebody completes the form, which is online, then the form is completed, and then it's sent in to the National Society along with copies of the referenced material, which would establish the qualifications.
Okay, let me click on the FAQ, because I just kind of wanted to go over this real quickly. So that's something about our society. Tell us about your tours, current projects. Okay, that's wonderful. Okay, what additional information do you provide? Let's click right there. Insignia, certificates, Barron's bars. Okay, I see that. Okay. And I think, let me go to members. Is this the part where you're talking about where you have the login section?
Yes, that's magnacharta1.org. So what happens is that when you log in, you hit login or make a profile, and you're assigned a category called pending. And then every day or every couple of days, I go in and check. And if in fact you are a member of the society, then you will be assigned as a member. If you're not a member, then you will be assigned interested. And there's different access to information on interested versus interested versus a member site. The member part has includes a list of the various divisions, chapters, and colonies, and the leadership of the divisions, chapters, and colonies, so that members can contact the local division to them. The interested portion includes a number of talks and presentations. So what we decided, we've had on our main website, if you go back to where it says main or news, that is that's not a restricted site. And when you go to the portion that where it says forum members page, Learning Center, you go to Learning Center, and then I think it goes to there should be a dinner connection in there somewhere, video links. Looked at video links. Okay. Now that is a page for video presentations. One of the tricks with the video presentations is that you'll notice that there's an S beside some of the links. That signifies Silverlight, which is a program that was started by Microsoft and discontinued. But when it started, it was actually used by the Olympics to enable a video to be presented very effectively. I think it's used by Netflix originally too. And what it did is that with a relatively smaller file, you can create extremely high quality presentations.
So all of these videos here, you do not need to be a member to view.
No, the Brookfield Publishing Media site, which is a site which hosts a lot of that kind of material, that is unrestricted. That's anybody can view that.
Wonderful. Okay. All right. So let's go back to your website. We've done FAQ, we've done members dinners. Let's just look at dinners real quick. So these are upcoming events.
Well, our next event's on April 11th, 2015.
2015?
Yeah, 2025.
2025, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. All right. So let me just do one more here, news expanded. And let's just kind of review this just a little bit. We've done the Learning Center, supplies, forms, members pages, partners. Can we kind of maybe go over what are partners?
Well, first of all, some of the pages, this is an older page. It has a lot of content attached to it. I mean, if you look at, for example, look at the e-news, okay? Those were the original newsletters, electronic newsletters we were putting out, and we included them all on this particular website. We subsequently had additional electronic newsletters, which we put out. And then, the news would be information that on an ongoing basis. Now we're focusing more on the actual, on the other website, and we're sending out electronic newsletters 2 or 3 times a year.
Okay, I see. Okay. Let's go back then. Let me stop sharing for just a moment. And let me move a couple screens around. Okay, I think we've gone over most of the links on your web page here. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up the floor to the class, and whoever has a question for Ted, please unmute your microphone, but leave your camera off and ask your question.
Chancellor Nielsen, can you explain how important the gateway ancestor is?
Well, what we refer to as the gateway ancestor is the immigrant, and that's an arbitrary identification. And so what we do is we have an internal database that tracks the ancestry of the individual immigrants, and based on prior knowledge and experience for the society. So if somebody can establish their descent from one of the immigrants, then that's enough to establish their qualification for the society. So yes. You go back. So, for example, you go back to George Reed, for example, and then we know what George Reed's ancestry is. So all you do is connect with the immigrant, but then you still have to document the connection to the immigrant.
So I was grateful to know about Mary Lance, but that means I didn't have to prove all the rest of them. I just had to prove from her to me.
Yes.
Okay, one of the questions in the chat box is, I'm a student in professional genealogy. Do you have a librarian or a research person who would be willing to do lookups for client lineages? And how long and how much do lookups cost?
We really don't do that. And basically to provide, many of people who are candidates hire individual genealogists to to prepare or help them preparing their lineages. And then we are independent in determining in evaluating the qualifications. So, and essentially, we're we're independent from the preparation process, and we don't charge extra for doing genealogical work.
Oh, okay. Doreen also asked in the chat box, does your lineage database also include immigrants to Eastern Canada, like for instance, the Ontario province?
Pardon me, I didn't understand.
Doreen would also like to know, does your lineage database also include immigrants to Eastern Canada, the Ontario province?
Ontario. I mean, off the top of my head, I'm not familiar with people who have come in from other countries, but it could easily happen that somebody would would identify a new ancestor, new immigrant that would have come in from England to a foreign country, and then establish the link there. That would be where part 2 would come in. So
Part 2 on that member, on the member website, part 2?
Part 2, right. There's part
Okay.
1 and part 2. Part 1 is the form to use when there's a known immigrant ancestor. But basically, you provide the documentation going back to the immigrant.
Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from the class?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead, Marlene.
I've been working on my application for maybe up to 2 years now, and I've spoken to you a couple of times on the phone, and you were very kind to confirm that my gateway ancestor, Sir William Johnson, is known to the society. So one question I have is, my parents were divorced. Do I need to include divorce information in my documentation? I've got their marriage information. Do I need to include the divorce information?
What you need to include is evidence to support the line. And in other words, if the information, primary information or authentic information, which would establish the fact that there is a connection, so that other documents, for example, if you have a birth certificate that names your parents, you might include death information also, but that's not, that's extra.
Okay.
So basically, we're concerned with the line itself.
All right. And my other question is, my own research has indicated that not only am I a Magna Carta descendant, but I'm a Charlemagne descendant. Can I send the fee for both at the same time?
We work with the Old World societies, which were the original societies for the connection to nobility and royalty. So one of the earliest societies was an organization called the Colonial Order of the Crown, which was basically for descent from Charlemagne. And that is one of the Old World societies. And then there's an Americans of Royal Descent organization. Now, anytime you have a good idea, some people are going to jump in and on top of it, so that there are other organizations which have some similar names to ours. But we work with the original organization. So if somebody wants to join the Colonial Order of the Crown, for example, the cost is $140 for membership. And there's a certificate and an insignia that goes along with it.
Is there a
Okay,
list of
I'm
the
not-
immigrant ancestors?
We have put on the website a list of 200 of the immigrant ancestors, and with the links on those pages to it lists the number of barons. Most of the immigrants are descended from more than one baron, and that so we list the 200 or so. We have listed 200 or so with the links, and eventually we'll get around to adding some more. But basically, we asked if somebody has a question about whether their ancestor qualifies who's not among those 200, they simply send us an email and we'll let them know.
Ted, I have your website up on the screen now. Where on the website is that list?
The which?
I have your website up on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Where on the website is that list of qualifying ancestors?
Let's see. Do we go to news? No, that's not the one. Try.
News
Okay.
expanded?
Okay. Baron pages. Okay. Let's look at that.
Oh, I can't get it to drop down.
Okay. There.
Yeah.
That one.
So that's where you find it right there, Baron pages.
Click on that.
Yeah, I am clicking, but nothing's happening.
Hmm.
It might be
Click on
my
the arrow.
computer. Yeah,
Oh.
I'm clicking on the arrow. Nothing's happening.
Well, we should. I'll check on that. But basically, it links to a page that includes the.
What about where it says ancestral info?
Immigrants. Look under immigrants. Okay, there. That is on the left-hand side, they're alphabetical. And then on the right-hand side, it's got the states that, the immigrants by state. But it refers to the same 200 immigrants that are listed in these connections. So if you click on one of them, for example, you get an ancestor index, and and then George Reed is a good one. That's a very popular one. You click on George Reed's page. Click on George Reed's name.
Oh, hold on. I gotta go back to the R's. Okay, hold on. That one right there?
Yep. And those are the barons that George Reed is descended from, and according to our information. And basically, nobody's challenged that. That's based on a database which we continue to upgrade and update.
Oh, okay, excellent. Okay.
If
So
I can say something,
Yeah, go ahead.
my gateway ancestor is not listed in this page because he's got too few descendants who have joined the society. But Barbara Joe's gateway ancestor is listed here.
As I said, we have put 200 immigrant ancestors on the website out of 1,000. So obviously there are a lot of immigrants that are not listed on the website, but calling in, basically calling in or sending an email, we can tell you whether your immigrant's qualified.
Okay, so basically it doesn't, even if your ancestor's name is not here, doesn't mean that it's not a qualifying ancestor.
That is correct. There are
Got
many qualified ancestors, and we just haven't gotten around to adding them to the website.
Understood. Okay. So the more people that, prove their ancestry, the more ancestors you'll be able to put on the website.
Well, we pretty much know who the ancestors are. It's just a matter of the mechanics of putting them up there.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Any other questions from the class? I know that, Ted, that was probably one of the biggest questions I know the class had is they're all going to be running to the website and seeing if their ancestor qualifies.
Suzanne, I think there's one in the chat box about an ancestor.
Okay, Paula from Texas. I'm supposed to be from William Mallet, M-A-L-E-T, through my Perkins line. Thought he come from Somerset, though he came from Somerset.
Well,
Does that make sense to you, Ted?
I mean, you can go back, if you go back to the page for George Reed has a list of the immigrants that he, the Barron ancestors. And it is, yeah, you can click on Roger Bagot, for example. Okay, there's a page describing Roger, information about Roger Bagot.
Paula, did that answer your question?
Yes, and mine was, the way mine was done was through the DNA. There's actually DNA, family tree DNA project administrator in England, and he was working on a paper to be published for the Magna Carta. And he went all over the area because there's people in the Y-DNA project that actually relate with, of course, different surnames, but most of us, one line we know came from the Cornwall, and from his determination, from what he did in his research, that he said he thought our Perkins line was specifically descended from the Mallet line.
Mallet.
And so, but I've been trying to work on the paper trail because I thought it was very interesting. Because we only can get my Perkins back to Currituck County, North Carolina, and they were probably in Virginia. My grandfather always said we were from Virginia, so they came the southern route. Some of them went up through Kentucky. So I've been working on this for about 40, 50 years now. But this helped.
Well, congratulations. That's but the interesting process is that as somebody does the genealogical research, and as they complete the application, they learn more about their individual ancestors, and it brings them alive. It makes the learn more about them simply going through the process of filling out the forms and qualifications. So that's almost part of the mission of the societies. So it's more than it's more than simply providing DNA evidence. Of course, that reinforces the connection, but the process of doing the research and learning about your ancestors is also very important.
Very fun too. You meet a lot of wonderful people, find new cousins. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Okay, let's give the class one more chance. Any other questions for our guest speaker?
I have a mystery that perhaps you can solve for me. Would you turn my video on again? I want to.
No, Barbara, I can't turn your video on because we're recording and I can't capture your image.
Oh, okay. So I have a single space typewritten 2-page list that was typed up by my family in 1935. And it has everybody, all the ancestors, starting with Robert de Roos and all the barons and knights of the garter and all the way down to Mary Lance. How could they have compiled that in 1935 without a computer? And family letters do proclaim that they have been proven, but I don't know how that had happened either.
Well, the research has been done. I mean, there are groups like the College of Arms, which has done a lot of research. There's the thing about one of the aspects of the English nobility and titles is that sometimes the titles, the ancestry is litigated. so that the ancestral connection with titles is probably stronger than otherwise. But people use the best evidence they could find of their connections, and during the early colonial period, for example, a lot of information was put on Bibles and Bible records, and people in many instances knew who their ancestors were. And they write them down or record it. And then, of course, as time goes on, then it's more information comes and it's authenticated.
Well,
So
it just, I guess I can never really know, but it's so incredibly detailed. I mean, you've got several sureties from of the Magna Carta, and Princess Elizabeth Plantagenet and the Quincy's and the Lacey's and the Clares and anyway, it's so detailed. I just can't imagine where they got all of that. Anyway, it can remain a mystery. That's all right.
well, it's interesting when you go through the process of looking on some of the ancestral databases, whether it's Ancestry or Genie or something like that, which have a lot of information, not necessarily well documented, but if you have information that's historical and documented, you can find additional information from some of those websites.
Yeah, but this was 1935, so I don't, and they say it was proven. Who would it have been proven with? I mean, what society? You guys were in existence in 1935.
Well, actually, our society, the Dames was formed in 1909.
Right.
So, but then other groups, I mean, the DARs, I think, go back earlier than that. And so that they had interest in genealogy and interest in doing the studies.
Yeah.
There was a resurgence of organizations probably in the late 1800s. And it might have been a time when there were people whose families were well known and well established. And then there were other families that came into the country also who didn't have the ancestral connection. So that was the time period that some of the organizations were developed to be able to be aware of what your ancestors were. And when a bunch of them have started, some have continued. I think today the number of societies has increased dramatically. In some instances driven by the genealogists, because if you have the descendants of this, I don't want to name any specific ones, but there have been many new societies developed, and of course each of them needs a genealogist and such, and some of them charge a lot of money to join.
Yeah.
We try to keep the costs as modest as possible.
Yes, thank you.
Because
Thank you.
we have a lot of information already.
Yeah.
And can build on that information and make it easier for people to participate.
Yeah,
And
appreciate that.
the other aspect is sometimes somebody who would write they would include themselves, but basically this way they can include a number of children or grandchildren.
Yeah. So thank you. It's just remarkable that I had this document, that it came wound up in my hands.
It develops, it's a process of developing interest in his history and traditions.
Yeah. Thank
Ted,
you.
Ted, I have a question. I'm so impressed by your resume. I mean, because I myself belong to maybe 6 different societies, and I'm looking at your long list of societies that you're a member of. if you had to guess, how many ancestors qualified you for, I mean, you must, I'm just looking over this list. I mean, what is there, at least 20 societies you belong to? Did you use the same gateway ancestors on many of them, or did you go through different gateway ancestors?
Well, we work with the old world societies, and most people use the same ancestor for so the immigrant would be descended from whether it's one of the barons or whether it's a royal connection and or a Plantagenet connection, for example. We also work with the Order of Washington, which is different, and that is based on service during the lifetime of George Washington. And basically, our position is for that organization that we will accept DAR, SAR, SR applications.
Is there a cutoff date? Because I know a lot of the older applications for a lot like SAR and DAR, a lot of the older applications, prior like to maybe 15 years ago, a lot of those are being looked at again, with a stricter eye for research because some of the research has turned out not to be true.
Well, it's the additional information is an ongoing process. But the interesting aspect of it is that many of our members establish their descent from one immigrant. But back in the older days, they would establish their descent from multiple immigrants, so that somebody might be descended from one person during the colonial period, and then they would also be descended from other immigrants within the colonial period. But it's an ongoing process.
Doreen just put something really interesting in the chat box. She says a lot of noble families in England turned in their documentation and family papers to the county archives and the College of Arms.
Say again about the College of Arms.
That many noble families turned their paperwork into the College of Arms to prove, the what do you call it? The documentation proving their lines.
Yeah.
That they gave it to the College of Arms.
I think they would, if they wanted to establish their connections, that would make sense. And this is a big deal because, with some of the families, there are titles which can be inherited based on their ancestry. And this is something where the College of Arms becomes a very important authenticator for relationships.
Okay, maybe I can get them as a guest speaker. That would be nice. Okay, well, once again, I'll open it up to class one more time. We've got a lot of questions today, which is really great. Any other questions from the class?
I just have one. So I see that you're in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
I had several ancestors come through Pennsylvania, particularly in the colonial times. And I'm trying to get into the DAR with one of them, but there's a sticky situation in proving parenthood or the connection between my ancestor and the particular patriot. So I have been doing more research, and I think I discovered that there's several people by the same name that have gotten completely confused with each other in the same area in Pennsylvania. How would I go about maybe getting or posting information so that maybe somebody would take that on as a project to separate these 3 to 5 men of the same name who are probably all cousins?
Right. One of the best resources we have in Pennsylvania is the Historical Society of Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
And they are and they have a tremendous collection, which is included a lot of genealogical information. And that was, and what was interesting there is they had an affiliation with a group called the Genealogical Society of Pennsylvania that I was involved with for a number of years. And the Genealogical Society actually had a room within the Historical Society, and the charter of the Genealogical Society provided that all of the collections were the property of the Historical Society. So the Genealogical Society built up the collection for the Historical Society, and then eventually, as time went on, they separated and changed the charter, and the Genealogical Society has a slightly different function at this point. But the Historical Society is a great resource for information.
Yeah, I've been there, and I know that a couple genealogies for this family, I've gotten the information, but I found a family Bible, and I've now have the same death dates for two different George acts. And it's whether or not who was the father of which George acts and which one was actually the patriot, and it is opened a whole can of worms for me because it's trying to figure out between three brothers, one of which was named George, not sure when he died. Two of the brothers had Georges, but it's a possibility one of them died. And then there's another George because he stayed living in that area when mine went to Ohio. So I'm looking at, three to five different George acts. And it's like, how do I figure out which one's which? But I can't find birth records.
Were they descended from the same? I mean, were they related?
Yes.
So their ancestor was the same. So whichever George it was, you'd still be connected with the line beyond that.
Yeah, just trying to figure out which because I know John Friedrich Axe was the grandfather of father, grandfather, etc. And he's buried in the upper burial ground in Germantown.
Yeah.
And then his son, John Friedrich Axe, had a George. His son Peter had a George. He also had a son named George. And there's another George that I'm not sure where it comes from. And then I think Peter had another son who had a son named George. But there's the John Friedrich Axe Jr. and the Peter Axe. Both of their sons, George, are having the same death date.
Well, would that have been during one of the epidemics that occurred perhaps?
1824.
I don't know. I mean, the question is whether, I mean, would they have been, I don't know what the history of all the epidemics that occurred.
Yeah.
But but it sounds like you've got a good project ahead of you.
I live in Florida, so I'm not real close.
Christy,
Well,
I have a question, Christy. Have you checked with the DAR database to see what evidence they have from past applications on that line?
They have the Patriot Captain George Axe through one of his other sons. And they told me that my George Axe is Captain George Axe's son. They just don't know which one of his wives was his mother. His Captain George Axe died in 1824, but I found the family Bible for Peter Axe, who says that his son George died in 1824. So on the same dates. So there's some records getting a little mixed up. So I'm like, somehow or another, things have gotten a little confused. So I'm not entirely sure whether or not John Friedrich Axe Jr. was Captain George Axe's father, or if it's Peter was actually Captain George Axe's father.
And I'm sure you've looked at wills and property transfers and all that.
I have not had time to get into all of it,
Yeah, because
Well,
you know,
I
that
think
might
that-
help
but
you
that's
sort
part
it
of what
out.
is showing up, that there's a confusion, a mess, and that some older written genealogies may be wrong. So it's like, I would love if there was somebody who lived right there that could research this
I mean,
or help.
the internet provides, I mean, the research ability continues to increase as more
Yeah.
information is scanned and available. So it's an ongoing process, and I wish you the best with it.
Thank you. I'm working on it slowly but steadily.
Great.
Mm.
Okay, any other questions from the class? Okay, all right. Well, Ted, it looks like all the questions have been answered, so I can't thank you enough for your time and your expertise. And once again, thank you very much for allowing us to record it. That's much appreciated.
Well, thank you very much. I'm pleased and honored to be included.
All right, well, then I'll invite the class because we're going to start the second half of class immediately. But if you were going to leave us at this time, if there's anything in the chat box that you want, grab it before you leave, because if you log out and log back in, you won't have access to the chat box. So once again, thank you once again, Ted. We really appreciate it. And if you'd like to exit at this time, just click the red end button on your Zoom screen.
Leave. Okay. Thank you. I'm gonna head. I've got a Sons of the Revolution activity this evening. So it's the Sons of the Revolution is actually meeting in Pennsylvania this weekend.
Oh, excellent. Okay, well, thank you once again and enjoy your weekend.
Thank you very much.
I'll stop
Bye-bye.
the recording.
Thanks. Bye.